American Indian Lisa Brunner spent her childhood on and around the White Earth Indian Reservation, a huge tract of land in northern Minnesota that's home to around 4,000 American Indians. Lisa grew up surrounded by domestic violence and since has become a leading advocate for Native victims of abuse.
It's happening every day.
Native women in the U.S. face some of the highest levels of violence of any group. According to the Justice Department, 1 in 3 Native women has been raped, and 3 out of 5 will experience domestic violence in their lifetimes. Lisa says she too is a victim of both rape and sexual assault. She had enough, she says, when a boyfriend slapped her across the face while she cradled her 9-month-old child.
And I packed up and left the next day, and I never went back. And I vowed thereafter that no man will ever touch me again. I will not. My babies will not know the life that I had to survive.
Lisa says that as an adult, she seldom went to the police, and that much of that has to do with the fact that some of the men who attacked her were non-Native, not American Indians. So why does that matter? Well, up until recently, non-Native people were immune from prosecution in tribal courts, and that's important for 2 reasons. One, the Justice Department says non-Native men commit the vast majority of rapes and assaults against Native women. And 2, federal attorneys, who are often the only lawyers who can try non-Native people who commit crimes on reservations, often don't prosecute.
I knew when I was being, when I had been raped and been victimized and whatnot, I never tried to report it because I knew nothing would ever happen. I knew nothing would be done.
When you have the combination of the silence that comes from victims who live in fear and a lack of accountability by outside jurisdictions to prosecute that crime, you've created, if you will, the perfect storm for domestic violence and sexual assault, which is exactly what all the statistics would sort of bear out.
In a 1978 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court said Indian tribes with their own tribal justice systems and courts were not allowed to charge non-Indians unless Congress passed a law. But Congress didn't act for 35 years. Then, just last year, when lawmakers were reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, sometimes called VAWA, they included a new provision granting tribal courts jurisdiction over a limited number of domestic and dating violence crimes committed by non-Indians on reservations, perhaps allowing people like Lisa Brunner to see justice. While the tribal domestic violence provision doesn't kick in until March of next year, 3 Indian reservations have taken part in a pilot program where they can begin some of those prosecutions now. 1 reservation in Arizona, 1 in Oregon, and this Indian reservation, the Tulalip Reservation, a little more than an hour's drive north of Seattle, Washington. Teresa Pauley has served as chief judge on the Tulalip Tribal Court since 2009. She says the responsibility to prosecute offenders on Indian reservations belongs to tribal courts.
The confused jurisdiction in Indian country, which leaves those responsibilities oftentimes to the state and federal government who don't effectively prosecute those crimes, creates this place where you have a category of people on Indian reservations who are essentially above the law.
What does this tribal provision in VAWA do to help close that gap?
It allows me to treat all domestic violence perpetrators exactly the same, Indian or non-Indian. So I have authority over Indians who commit that crime. This just gives me authority over non-Indians who commit the exact same crime.
Since March of this year, the Tulalip tribal prosecutor has brought charges against 5 alleged non-Indian domestic violence defendants. As of this airing, 2 have pled guilty, 2 are awaiting trial, and 1 case has been dismissed. But will this new authority actually help stop the crisis of violence against Indian women? One concern, the new law only covers domestic and dating violence. It does not include crimes like assault by a stranger or even rape. Michelle Demert is the Tulalip tribe's lead attorney.
Unfortunately, it's not quite gone far enough. In just 3 recent cases, we had children involved, and we're not able to charge on the crimes that were committed against those children, including endangerment, criminal endangerment, possibly assault, other attendant or collateral crimes.
You're able to prosecute one crime, but not the other.
That's right.